Okay. I'm watching day 4 since I missed during the day. Since I heard about how the doctor just screwed Amber Heard, Dr. Kipper. He just screwed her. But I want to see this all come into fruition. Okay, where's it? Where's Johnny? Johnny running away. It looks like it's counting people right here. Where's Johnny? Maybe he went to the bathroom. Oh, there he is. I like the little ponytail look. We gotta go pee.
All right, good morning. Are there any preliminary matters before the jury? If you can put your microphone on or go to the. Oh, you want to approach with it? Okay, that's fine.
For the judge would be like, fuck, I can't get an autograph from Johnny. Crap. You still have to be professional about it. Wish I knew what they were saying. Anyone a lip writer out there? Laughing. I love the fact that they're smiling. He's smiling through this and laughing and having a good time.
It's preliminary.
No, thank you, Ryan.
Okay, good. Ready for the jury? All right, let's put the jury out. Oh, sorry. Oh, yes, Dr. Cooper is the last hour. Okay. You want to wait for the jury, then you can enter those into evidence. Is that okay? You enter those exhibits into evidence when the jury comes out. Does that sound all right? That works? Okay, that works. Okay.
I enjoyed the trip. Don't stand up. I really love him. She seems like a nice woman. She's not going Amber's way. Damn.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm sorry, but
Mr.
this is
Nagle,
I'm trying to Amber's
ladies and gentlemen,
way.
you might remember we're in the middle of Dr.
So-
Kipper's testimony for her deposition, but I think there's some exhibits that need to be moved in.
Thank you, Your Honor. The parties discussed over the weekend, and we have agreement as to plaintiffs' exhibits 41, 42, 47, 48, and 49 of plaintiffs' exhibits. I do believe that there are some slight redactions that I think they have copies of that they can provide to you. And then we also have defendants 1063, which is redacted, and I can provide you a copy, and they also have the redactions. Same for defendants 283, defendants 405,
Oh, my copy
defendants
taking time.
455, defendants 304, defendants 307, and in addition, 395 and 414 would come in without any redactions, but I can provide you copies of the ones that we.
All right, and have you already done the redactions, or are you still working on redactions?
I'm already doubled up.
Agreed on the redactions except for one document, which we will.
Okay,
Yes.
and now 42, I already have in evidence. I was just waiting for redactions for that one, so we're still waiting for redactions for that one. But you have that.
For 42, is, I believe, defendants.
Defendants 42.
Oh, I think we decided that we agreed with that one that there would be no redactions.
Plaintiffs 42?
Sorry, plaintiffs 42, we
No
agreed
redactions.
after discussion that there would be no redactions.
Gotcha, that's correct.
All right, so all those are entered into evidence, is that correct, with the redactions that you agreed upon?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so there's no objection?
And then, yes, there's no objection.
Okay.
I think I addressed it.
All right.
And we can provide you, so they have the electronic copies, which are going to be shown while the deposition is being played, and we could provide you copies. I can provide you copies now of the redacted
Right,
ones.
if they're redacted ones, I need copies, if they're not redacted, I have them.
Right.
So
Okay.
yes, okay,
Okay.
that'd be fine.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. All right, we're ready? Thank you.
If I may, just before we begin, Your Honor,
Okay,
just as an explanation for the jury, what you have seen from Dr. Kipper up until this point has been the search consult examination. At some point, it'll switch over and it'll be Mr. Depp's consult.
yeah, thank you.
Mr. Depp informing you that he was upset with Dr. Calvin. Yes,
Why is
really
really?
upset with Dr.
isn't it 2022 already?
You know, do you
Why
recall
does
this
it
text
say
message
February
from Mr.
22,
Depp that I just read to you?
2021?
Yes, I'm reading it like.
Someone set the date wrong. It says February. We're in freaking what? April? And it ain't the 22nd.
And then
Someone needs to fix
Mr.
that.
Depp wrote to you again on July 5th, 2015.
The date is all
And said, "You're a
wrong.
great man and a great friend. As much as I would love to see you, be a waste of your time, I've just got quite a lot going on with business stuff, my Keith film, and some Amber issues, By the way, I'll try not to be too subtle about this, Cowan should be stripped of his license to practice his supposed profession, And then he should be stripped and spray painted whilst handcuffed to a stop sign. 3 exclamation points. He is at best a fraudulent, irresponsible turd of monumental proportions. 3 exclamation points. I love you, Johnny. Recall this text message from Mr. Depp?
Again, I do upon reading this, I don't remember all the specific messages I got from him, but I certainly remember the gestalt of his feelings.
And do you continue to work with Dr. Cowan? Do you continue to refer patients to Dr. Cowan? Let me ask it differently.
Yes. I have great respect for Dr. Khan.
And Mr. Depp sent you another text message on July 24th, 2015 that says, "Hey, dear pal, Amber is happy with Cowan, ... I just don't know what truth he gets, and I don't know what his manners and strengths are, ... I think she listens to him because when we argue, she slathers me up in those condescending psychiatric trophy lines like, ... Your fear is so visible, ... What are you scared of, ... 3 exclamation points. Why are you letting your fear and your ego control your life, etc., ... Hippie shit, ... Makes me want to rampage against anyone, all capitals, wearing Birkenstocks, 3 exclamation points. Love you large, Jay." I assume you recall this text message as well?
No, but I recall when I'm looking at it, yes.
Okay. Now we're going to go to another text message. On August 3rd, 2015, Mr. Depp texts you, "You can flog me soon for waiting until now, for having not properly given my kind apparatus the appropriate and adequate general cock love, ... I've tried and mostly failed, ... Many unpleasant things happening with my business world going on that are attempting to give me the funny pain face that could render me no more and send me head first straight into the bowl of minestrone or worse, a green curry, ... So most necessary PRMs are all headache meds, Xanax, Adderall, and whatever this magical ointment for that traitorous redness in the much valued and region of significance, ... Thanks and love, XJD." Do you recall this text message?
No, but I'm once again reminded by looking at it.
Do you recall not being paid for 3 months?
I recall not being paid. I don't remember how long. It always turned back around, but specifically that issue, no, I can't.
So there was a period of time where Mr. Depp was not paying you for your services, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So as of February 10th, 2016, you were very concerned about Mr. Depp's health, correct?
In the document, I'm also serving as his internist.
I call that good work.
You weren't concerned at all about Mr. Depp's
Just so they could
continuing with
story.
his
I see.
treatment plan
Or
for
would try me on it.
drug and alcohol use?
You can't separate those two issues. They're not two distinct issues. But in order for me to assess how he was doing in general with his general health, these metrics that I identify in the second paragraph were things that I needed to follow. And I wasn't getting that follow up, and I needed to know that we were on the right course now.
Do you recall being concerned about Mr. Depp in June 2018?
Yes.
What, if any, concerns that you have about Mr. Depp taking drugs or alcohol that were not part of the protocol?
I was concerned that could be a potential.
Oh, ouch.
Dr. Kipper,
This is where I like Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish says she couldn't be headlining Coachella and apologizes for not being Beyonce.
At this point,
Oh,
there is a litigation
shit.
which the parties are still in dispute. I believe that's okay to continue playing at this point and we can resolve it.
All right.
After the fact.
Is that, okay, all right, that's fine, thank you.
Are invoices that you produced from February 2015 through February 6, 2015 to February 1st, 2021. You recall producing these documents?
Yeah.
No?
Those would have come from my accountant's office.
Okay. Are you still working for Mr. Depp?
Yes.
And so at the bottom here, there's a lot that just say case management fee. You know what that refers to as opposed to nursing services and doctor services?
That's a retainer fee that I have with him on a monthly basis.
Now, Dr. Kipper, we received invoices for you, for Mr. Depp from Fireman's Insurance Fund, for 2014. Does this look like an invoice from your office to Mr. Depp? Dr. Kipper, you've already testified that these are invoices to Mr. Depp, correct?
I've testified that these are invoices. This is something generated from my account. Yes.
Have you spoken to Mr. Depp through the council since the beginning of this year?
Yes.
Who have you spoken to?
I've spoken to Camille on 2 occasions.
Anybody else?
No.
What did you speak to Camille about?
About the deposition.
Mr. Kemp, Dr. Kemper, I think you're incorrect. I think also Ms. Myers was in one of those telephone conversations.
So that's,
And other than the scheduling of the deposition, did they talk about the issues that you were going to be asked about?
yes, of course.
Okay. How long were the conversations?
45 minutes.
Were they over phone or by Zoom or in person?
The first conversation was in person, and the second was by Zoom.
And you thought there were about 2 45-minute calls? Are you paying for your counsel in this case?
Yes, I am.
First of all, Dr. Kipper, do you remember seeing this document earlier?
Yes.
And you recognize it as your initial consultation notes with Mr. Depp? I'd like to direct your attention to the 3rd page. Okay. You see here where it says impressions.
Yes.
Now, could you describe what the items listed under this heading are?
The first one, primary dopamine imbalance. This in general terms, primary dopamine imbalance, ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, bipolar 1, depression secondary to above, insomnia, chronic substance abuse disorder, chronic reflux.
With respect to these items, are these an official diagnosis of Mr. Depp?
These are my impressions, yes.
When you say impression, is that considered would you consider that a diagnosis?
Yes, Ms. Myers, that's my diagnostic impression.
I took pull up what was already marked as Kipper Exhibit 4, please. Dr. Kipper, I believe we've already established, but could you confirm you recognize this document?
Yes.
And these are also notes of the conversation we had with Mr. Depp.
Correct.
And it appears from these notes that Miss Debbie Lloyd was at the meeting, correct?
Yes.
And she's a registered nurse?
Yes.
Did Mr. Depp's treatment plan contemplate Miss Lloyd remaining with Mr. Depp during his therapy?
Yes,
And was it contemplated that Miss Lloyd would personally distribute his medications?
yes,
Did Miss Lloyd provide personally dispensed medications to Mr. Depp?
yes, she did.
And how regular was Miss Lloyd's contact with Mr. Depp?
She had contact with him daily, either physically or by phone.
How often would you estimate that she was physically in contact with him?
I would say 80%, 90% of the time, somewhere.
And Mr. Depp agreed to this supervision by Miss Lloyd?
Yes,
Alex, could you please pull up what's been marked as Kipper Exhibit 6? Dr. Kipper, could you please confirm that these are your notes from a consultation you had with Mr. Depp in Boston in June of 2014?
yes, this is a summary from June 22nd to June 24th of that instance, of that time.
And if we scroll down, the notes reflect here that you met with Miss Heard at that time, correct?
Yes,
Miss Heard tell you that she was concerned about Mr. Depp being violent with her at this point?
no,
If she had told you that, is that something you would have documented in these notes?
yes,
Your note here states that Amber has a strong family history of drug and alcohol abuse and is particularly sensitive to his behaviors and potential for abuse. The phrase potential for abuse, is that referring to substance abuse?
yes.
It's not referring to physical abuse. And what do you mean when you state that Ms. Heard is particularly sensitive to Mr. Depp's behaviors?
Having grown up in that environment, she's used to seeing the trauma that it inflicts and is not only able to recognize it, but also it affects her. She has the ability to understand what that looks like.
And was this your observation of her or something she told you?
This is something she told me.
Alex, could you please pull up what's been marked as Chipper Exhibit 5, please? Dr. Chipper, you recognize these as, I believe you testified, a combination of your own patient notes and Miss Lloyd's patient notes for Mr. Depp, correct?
Yes,
And I believe you testified you compiled them together. Is that right?
yes,
Did you, for the notes that were taken by Miss Lloyd, did you specifically request that she maintain these notes?
yes. That's part of her responsibility.
And did you advise her on what types of information she should include in those notes?
No,
Is there anything in particular that you asked her to include in the notes?
no, she was trained in this, and she knew what the important metrics were in notation.
And I believe you testified that you have reviewed these notes in their entirety before, correct?
Yes,
many times would you say you reviewed these notes?
I reviewed them at the time they were written, and I reviewed them probably a couple weeks ago. So twice.
And then the last page now. And do you see this note marked June 30th?
Yes.
So do you understand that to be June 30th, 2015?
Yes.
Did Miss Lloyd stop attending to Mr. Depp around this time?
I'm going to refer to my timetable just because I'll have a better sense of where the treatment is.
All right, I'd like to talk to you briefly about the detox process on Mr. Depp's Island in August 2014. I believe you said that you traveled down to attend to Mr. Depp during this time, correct?
Yes.
And when you arrived on the island, who was present?
Mr. Depp, Miss Heard, Miss Lloyd, and assistants from Mr. Depp. And I can't recall which assistants.
Do you recall how many?
No. There were people that I think lived or serviced that island when he was there. There were probably 4 of those people. And I'm not sure if he had 1 or 2 of his own assistants.
Dr. Kipper, when you arrived on the island in August 2014, did you see where Mr. Depp was staying?
Yes.
And what did these accommodations look like?
He had a little home structure. It was a small structure, bedroom and a kitchen and a sitting area.
And was Ms. Heard staying there with him?
Yes.
And relative to where Mr. Depp was staying, where was Ms. Lloyd staying?
She was staying on another part of the island in a structure called a yurt, which is like a tent.
And how far away, how long would it take Ms. Lloyd to get to where Mr. Depp was staying? Would that be walking?
No, that would be on a motorized vehicle.
And relative to where Mr. Depp was staying, where did you stay on the island?
Stayed on the other side of the field.
Also in yours?
Yes.
Had Mr. Depp's detoxification process already started when you arrived on the island?
Yes.
And had Miss Lloyd been overseeing that process?
Yes.
Did she report any issues to you upon your arrival?
She certainly updated. I was updated. He started on the 10th. I arrived on the 12th, so I was in full communication with her from the beginning.
After you arrived on the island, did you personally oversee Mr. Depp's detoxification process?
Yes.
And how often would you check in on him?
Several times a day.
And was this physically going to see him?
This would be seeing him physically once a day and then checking on his progress throughout the day.
So during the detoxification process, you did see Mr. Depp at least once a day?
Yes.
And was Ms. Lloyd checking on Mr. Depp daily?
Yes.
that she was seeing him in person physically as well?
Yes,
You went and saw Mr. Depp after receiving that message, correct?
yes,
And did Miss Lloyd go with you?
yes.
And where did you see Mr. Depp after receiving that message?
I believe I saw him outside of his little home. It was either in the, across from this little home was like a little canteen, where one would eat. And it was, I think, around the canteen.
And what was his physical condition at that time?
He was frustrated. He was uncomfortable.
How was his demeanor?
One of being frustrated and uncomfortable.
And was Ms. Heard with him at that time?
When
It
I
was like
saw
just
Mr.
so
Depp at that
morning.
point,
Oh
she
my
was-
God.
And at this time, he was in the middle of his detoxification process, right?
Yes,
Did you see Ms. Heard that evening?
I can't remember.
Do you recall Ms. Heard seeking treatment from you for any physical injuries while you were on the island in August 2014?
I don't.
If Ms. Heard had sought treatment from you for injuries, is that something you would have documented?
Yes, I would.
Is that something you would have remembered for telling me?
Yes.
Did you see Ms. Heard after this evening of August 17th?
On that particular evening, that I can't remember. But I did see Miss Heard pretty much daily during my time on the island.
So did you see her at some point, perhaps, did you see her the next day?
Yes,
And did you observe any injuries to Ms. Heard at that time?
no,
She didn't have any bruises that you observed?
No.
After you met with Mr. Depp that evening of August 17th, did you go back to his accommodations at some point?
no. No, I think we resolved the issues where we were outside of his little, his home.
So you didn't go and attend to him again in his home for that time?
No.
Alex, could you please pull up what's been marked as Kipper Exhibit 8? Dr. Kipper, I think you remember this email from earlier in your deposition?
Yes, I do.
And I believe you testified that you recall sending this email to Ms. Gilbert on August 18th, 2014. Correct?
Yes.
At the time you wrote this email, how long have you known Mr. Depp?
Approximately 4 months.
And in those 4 months, how much time have you spent with Mr. Depp?
I couldn't give you a cumulative number of hours, but I would say, I would estimate that including up until August 18, I would guesstimate 20 hours.
Is it fair to say that when you wrote this email, most of the time you had known Mr. Depp or spent with Mr. Depp was while he was in detox?
Yes.
During the time that you were with Mr. Depp on the island for his detox process, did you ever witness him physically abuse Ms. Heather?
No, never.
Did you ever see any physical evidence that Mr. Depp had abused Ms. Heather?
No. Same answer, never.
And during your time on the island, did you witness Miss Heard abuse Mr. Depp in any way? Do you recall when Miss Heard first became your patient?
No, I couldn't give you a definitive date.
It would have been before October 2014, though, correct?
Yes.
And it would have been after Mr. Depp's detox on the island in August 2014, is that right?
That's correct.
When you started treating Ms. Heard, did you assign a nurse to her? When you started treating Ms. Heard, was there a nurse that you assigned to her?
I can't recall whether as far as it was when I started to treat her, at some point I did assign a nurse to her, but I can't tell you which came first. I believe I was treating her before I had recommended a nurse to her.
So your recollection is that you started treating her and after that a nurse was assigned?
That's my memory, yes.
Do you have a sense of how close in time to you beginning your treatment the nurse was assigned to Ms. Heard?
It couldn't have been too long, but I honestly can't give you a specific reference of time.
Do you remember that nurse's name?
Aaron Bourne.
And is Ms. Bourne a registered nurse?
Yeah.
And I believe you covered this earlier. Ms. Bourne is a contractor for you,
Yes.
and she reports to you with respect to your patients that she covers.
Correct.
During the time that Ms. Heard was your patient and she had a nurse, Ms. Bourne was assigned to her, how regular was Ms. Bourne checking in with Ms. Heard?
Very regular. Very
Did
regular.
you see her on a daily basis?
I don't believe it was a daily basis, but I know I had daily contact with her.
Would Ms. Bourne have seen Ms. Heard in person on at least a weekly basis?
Yes.
Are there times that Ms. Bourne traveled with Ms. Heard?
Yes.
And as a registered nurse, does Ms. Bourne have an obligation to report any suspected abuse of her patient to you? Alex, could you please pull up document H? Alex, is this Cooper Exhibit 34? Dr. Tipper, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
And what is it?
It's an initial intake of that care.
I'm going to scroll down a bit and just show you that there are future entries on this document as well. Do you see these?
I do. I'm assuming, I don't want to make an assumption, but I would believe these notes are from Karen. But if you give me a second to look at this, I can be more specific.
Certainly. So let me know if you'd like me to scroll through the document, and now I can do that for you.
Yes, these are notes from Aaron.
Does this document reflect any of your notes on this page?
This reflects my treatment recommendations.
But these are Miss Bourne's notes. Did you ask Miss Bourne to make you these notes?
Yes,
And for what purpose?
because she was monitoring a patient. I needed to be informed of how the patient was doing and for any adjustments of treatment.
Did you tell Miss Bourne what type of information should be documented in the notes?
No,
And would there be anything that you especially asked her not to document? Do you understand that Miss Bourne used her training and judgment in preparing these notes?
yes, I do.
You weren't telling her what to do with these notes. She was drafting them on her own. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Have you reviewed these notes before?
I have reviewed these notes.
Have you reviewed them in their entirety?
Yes, but not recently.
And how often would you review Miss Bourne's notes on Miss Hurd?
I review my nurse's notes as they come in, so that would be on a real-time basis.
And going back to the first page, we see this entry is dated August 27th, 2014.
Yes,
Does this reflect the recollection as to when Miss Bourne would have been assigned to Miss Hurd?
yes,
And does this refresh your recollection as to when you started treating Miss Hurd?
yes, this would be about the time.
During the time that you treated Miss Hurd, did she ever seek treatment from you for injuries that appeared to be the result of domestic abuse?
No, she did not.
Did she ever seek treatment from you for any injuries that she told you were caused by Mr. Depp?
No, she did not.
And did Miss Hurd ever tell you that Mr. Depp abused her?
No, she did not.
And you never witnessed any physical abuse by Mr. Depp against Miss Hurd during the time that you treated both of them?
No, never.
If Ms. Bourne observed that Miss Hurd had any physical injury, is this something that would have been documented in her treatment notes?
Yes, absolutely.
In March 2015, you traveled down to Australia to attend that, is that right?
Yes,
And at the time, Mr. Depp was already in Australia, correct?
correct.
And was Miss Lloyd with him?
Yes,
And was Miss Hurd with him?
yes.
When you arrived in Australia, when did you first see Mr. Depp?
I believe it was the day after I left.
And where did you see him?
I saw him at this point as well.
How long did you meet with him during that time?
Probably an hour.
When you first met with Mr. Devlin Slowly, did you see the home that he was staying in?
Yes,
And was it a standalone house?
yes.
Was there a fence around the house?
I'm sorry,
Was there a fence around the house?
that I can't recall.
Do you recall whether Mr. Duff's security team was at the property?
Yes. They were.
Where did you see them?
I saw them in and around the house.
Do you recall how many security personnel there were?
2 to 3.
After you arrived in Australia, at some point you were notified that Mr. Duff had been injured, correct?
Yes.
And I believe this was covered earlier in your deposition. You actually received a text message from Mr. Duff, correct?
Yes.
And after you received that message, did you go directly to Mr. Duff?
Yes.
And Ms. Lloyd came with you?
Yes.
And I believe you said that Mr. Duff was outside the property in a car at that time, right?
That's correct.
Was Mr. Duff's security team there with him?
Yes.
And you examined Mr. Duff in the car with his security team present?
Yes, I saw him seated in the car when I arrived.
Did Mr. Duff tell you what had happened to his finger at that time?
Yes.
How long did you attend to Mr. Duff outside of the house?
Not long, probably a half hour, because I needed to get him to the emergency room.
So immediately after meeting him at the house, you went with him to the emergency room?
Yes, I cleaned his wound to the best that I could with the supplies that we had, and then took him. So it was within a half hour that we left.
Did you return to the house after bringing Mr. Duff to the hospital?
No, I was taken back to my hotel.
After you attended to Mr. Duffy before you went to the hospital with him, did you go inside the house?
No,
You did not go inside the property the day that Mr. Duff contacted you about his injured finger?
no, I did go into the house, as I had stated, that after I saw him initially, I went into the home to see the home.
And that was before you went to the hospital with him?
Yes, I went in to instruct one of the people with him to look for the tip of the finger, hoping that we would be able to put it back.
Was the tip of the finger found?
It was found.
Who found it?
I believe this man was their chef.
And do you know where he found it or where he told you he found it?
He said he found it in the kitchen area.
When you went to the house, did you see Miss Hood?
Yes,
And how did she appear?
she was certainly upset.
Did Miss Hood seek any medical attention from you for any injuries at that
This
time?
doctor just blew the case right out of the water.
I know, they got way too many
Miss Hood
evidence.
seek any
They
medical
even got
attention
needle.
from Miss Lloyd at that
Is it snowing?
No.
Did you observe any physical injuries to Miss White when you saw her back?
What the hell? It's supposed to be spring.
So Miss Heard did not have any observable bleeding that you saw.
Yay!
Someone should really tell Mother Nature
Did
because
you
now
observe periodic
nothing is gonna be
bleeding?
blue.
Keep being freaking hormonal. And that's the thing.
Because everything was just starting to bloom, and now they're gonna have to shut their blooms again because it got cold on a whim. Oh, and it's coming down hard now.
Mother Nature, stop being hormonal.
Did you observe any
Shit.
on her feet or any other part of her body?
I can't recall.
I mean, look at that.
She's being fucking hormonal, man.
You've been injured. Is this something that you would have documented?
Yes.
She's being fucking hormonal, man.
Did you observe any broken glass in the house?
Yes.
Did you tell what the glass was from?
Yeah.
Was there blood around the broken glass?
There was blood around the home, as I had previously mentioned, but I didn't specifically see
Yep,
blood
I
on
read this now
glass.
on glacier ice.
Where did you see the broken glass?
In the kitchen area.
And that's where the part of the finger was found as well?
Yes.
Kipper's saying that he never saw any bruises or anything on
That's
it.
what everybody's been saying.
But
But one person, from what I read,
Someone
one person even lied for her, and Amber found a way to get evidence banned from court.
And the person that got banned from court too.
Yeah. So now,
Which they claim in the documents that I've seen, Popcorn Planet had gotten freaking evidence stating that that woman that was kicked out, that was supposed to be a journalist, was also Amber's new girlfriend.
that's the new evidence that was the evidence that was banned from court.
Whatever she was gonna say got banned from court right along with her.
So that was the evidence.
Because of the fact that she was caught twittering on
I'm gonna
Twitter.
stand up for my little girlfriend. Oh, he looks so hot every day.
You should have seen him in the beginning of the thing. He was giggling and laughing and shit.
I know, I love him. You should have seen him when somebody brought up Fantastic Beasts 3. He laughed at it. He scoffed at the film. That is fucking brilliant on Johnny's part.
Yes.
What is it?
If you could just, for my verification, can you scroll
I
down
love
to the
Johnny and everything
bottom,
he does.
please?
It goes on to the 2 pieces.
Sit down and watch this with me.
Yes, I'm familiar with this document, yes.
All right.
Did you prepare this document?
Dude, I'm not gonna be here long.
This
I do
document
get
that was
bored.
prepared by someone who
Oh my nose, that Amber Heard's
This was
ass is
prepared by
being
Monroe Tinker,
Yeah, no, right
who
back.
is a nurse practitioner who worked for me. at
USA does their research.
Mm-hmm. They think they can do the same thing that they did in overseas.
Because
Because Americans are more opinionated and open mouth than they are in UK.
and do their research. Once they find you, they find you. And once they find the
I
evidence,
reviewed
they
it
found the evidence.
immediately after
It doesn't matter
this
what you say and what your girlfriend say.
the
Because
next
overseas,
day.
even if her girlfriend would have reacted that way,
I
she would
also
not have been
reviewed
banned
this,
at court overseas.
a couple weeks ago.
She would have been still there because she's a witness.
Exactly.
Your attention to the last page.
But over here, we ban people if they don't act right. And if they're caught lying, caught with their
That
pants
is
down,
confirming that I
we'll make sure to show them as such.
Mr. Tinker's
Exactly.
notes.
There is no lying in court in the USA.
Going down to the top,
What did he
this
say?
is
Give
a
him what's so
patient record for Miss Bird, correct?
Yes,
And this, where it says date December 17th, 2015, is that the date of this, that's the date of this document?
yes,
Stop doing that.
And the document states, phone call consultation heading, correct?
yes,
So does that mean that on December 17th, 2015, Ms. Heard called the offices to report a headache?
yes.
And right below this, there's a paragraph that starts out with HPI. What does that stand for?
History of present illness.
And is the information in this paragraph what Ms. Heard reported during her phone consultation?
That was written. I was not there, but that's what's written.
States today the patient reports a headache after she bumped her head while standing up 2 days ago, correct?
Yes,
And a couple sentences below that, it says last seen in the office on 12/23/2015. Is that an error? Or did she come back in later?
no, I think that's gotta be an error.
So based on this document, it's your understanding that Ms. Hurt called the office on December 7th.
Yes,
Going down to the bottom here, it says objective data physical exam. Do you see that?
yes,
Does that mean that Ms. Hurt came into the office for physical examination?
that's what it signifies, yes.
And would that have also been on December 17th, 2015?
Yes. Reflects that visit. Everything in this note reflects that visit.
And so, Monroe would have also performed that physical examination?
Monroe did perform that physical examination. I did not see Ms. Hurd. Monroe saw Ms. Hurd.
And the information below this heading of physical exam, which goes on to the next page, are these the findings from Ms. Hart's physical exam on December 17th?
Correct.
And did Ms. Hurt have any physical injuries or those have been noted in this portion of the document?
Yes.
And there are some medical terms in here, but so if you could let me know, does any of this indicate that there were physical injuries that were documented?
No.
Does this document indicate that a concussion check was performed?
Yes.
And what were the results of that?
Under the assessment and plan as written,
Mhm.
Mr. Tinker did not indicate concussion under his assessment.
Under assessment and plan, item 4 says that Dr. Tipper is aware of the medical plan and is in agreement. That's consistent with your recollection?
Yes.
And I believe you testified you didn't see Ms. Bird on December 17th, correct?
That's correct.
How were you informed of the medical plan?
I spoke to Mr. Tinker by telephone.
And would that conversation have happened on the 17th as well? Alex, could you please pull up document L? I believe this is what will be marked as for exhibit 36. Dr. Tippett, do you recognize this document?
Yes, I recognize it upon looking at it, yes.
What do you recognize this document as?
As an email from Ms. Hurd to me, requesting medical records for that month of December.
December 2015?
Yes.
And do you recall receiving this email?
I don't recall receiving it, but I'm sure I did, and I'm sure I reviewed it. Yes.
And you see that the email is dated August 8th, 2016, right?
Yes.
And you have no reason to doubt that you received the email on around that date?
Correct.
On August 8th, 2016, was Ms. Hurd still your patient?
I believe so, but I can't be sure.
Now, I'm going to read from this email here. Ms. Hurd writes to you, as per our conversation earlier, is it possible to get my medical records from the month of December, please? I know I saw Monroe during one of my office visits. It makes it easier for you to find. I'm not sure. Anyway, it was great talking to you. Ms. Hurd references speaking to you earlier in this email, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall having spoken to Ms. Hurd before receiving this email?
I can't remember.
You don't remember anything about a conversation that you might have had with Ms. Hurd prior to receiving this email?
No, I can't recall that.
And I believe you already stated this, but you understand Ms. Hurd to be requesting medical records from December 2015, correct?
Correct.
And Ms. Hurd mentions Monroe in this email as well, correct?
Correct.
And Monroe is the nurse practitioner that Ms. Hurd saw in December 17, 2015, right?
Yes.
Did you provide Ms. Hurd with her medical records for December 2015?
I believe so.
And do you recall what those records consisted of?
The one we just reviewed.
Was that the only one for December 2015?
Again, I would have to research her chart for that information, but I know at least it was that night.
Did Ms. Hurd ever ask you for any other medical records?
No.
In the over 6 years that you've known Mr. Depp, have you ever witnessed him be physically abusive to any person? And you've
Oh, now
never
it's great.
witnessed him be physically abusive to Ms.
It's
Hurd,
sweet.
correct?
Correct.
You also know Ms.
So I guess
Hurd
we're
for
gonna get
over 6
hail
years
next?
at this point,
We're
correct?
all one. Knowing how Mother Nature's come on all.
I've seen this for at least a couple of years, perhaps 3 years.
In the 6 years that you treated Mr. In the over 6 years you've treated Mr. Depp, has Mr. Depp ever complained to you that Ms. Hurd has physically abused him?
No, not that I can recall.
Have you ever witnessed Ms. Hurd be physically abusive to Mr. Depp?
No.
Has anyone who works for you or reports to you ever reported to you that they witnessed Ms. Depp, or excuse me, Ms. Hurd be physically abusive to Mr. Depp?
No, not that I can recall.
You testified You testified earlier, from questions from Ms. Myers, that the tip of Mr. Depp's finger was found in the kitchen, found on the floor of the kitchen in the home in Australia, correct? And where, do you know where the kitchen was? Was it on what floor the kitchen was?
There was a downstairs below the kitchen area. I think those, I'm not really sure. I think those were bedrooms, but I'm not positive. So this would be on the main floor. The kitchen was on the main floor as we went into the.
And that's where the tip of the finger was found in the kitchen on the main floor?
Yes.
No, there was a text message where you got a text message from Mr. Depp.
Yes.
And he said he cut his finger, correct?
I think that's what it said, yes.
Okay. And the reference from the emergency room said that Mr. Depp had sliced his finger with a knife, correct?
Yes, that's what he told, well, that was present for that. That's what he told the emergency room.
Okay. So Mr. Depp told the emergency room doctor that he had cut his finger with a knife, correct?
Yes.
And you didn't put that in any of your notes that a bottle was thrown at Mr. Depp, correct?
Correct.
Did Mr. Depp have any cuts anywhere else on his face or anywhere else that would have come from glass? Now, if Ms. Heard told Ms. Borum that Mr. Depp had hit her in the face several times and sent her pictures of bruises, would you expect Ms. Borum to report that in her notes?
I would have expected Ms. Bourne to send me those pictures.
So you would have expected to see those pictures from Ms. Borum, is that correct?
Yes.
And you would have expected, and you would have wanted Ms. Borum to, if she had seen a text that said, I was hit in the face by Ms. Heard and then received pictures of bruises, that Ms. Borum would report that to you, correct? Yeah. Is that an instruction that you gave to your nurses to report to you any abuse that they saw or were reported to them?
Yes, if they saw that as valid, Ms. Heard, for example, if somebody hurt Ms. Heard while she was under the care, direct care of Ms. Borum, and Ms. Borum documented that Ms. Heard had been injured, she certainly would have reported that to me.
That's what your expectation would be.
Dr. Kipper, did you keep any notes of your treatment of Mr. Depp while he was in Australia?
Other than the summary notes, no.
And was Miss Lloyd?
Oh my God, so fucking hot.
What happened to his finger before you got him to the hospital?
I believe yes. I'm not positive, but I believe yes, because she was helping me at the car to try to clean out that finger, which is when he explained what happened.
Do you believe that Miss Lloyd would have heard Mr. Depp's explanation?
I believe so.
All right, that completes the deposition. And the next witness is also by deposition, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor, Debbie Boyd.
All right, well, why don't we go ahead and take our morning break? It's a little early, but since the next witness is also by deposition, why don't we take our 15-minute break now so you can stretch for a little bit, and we'll come back in about 15 minutes, okay? So you can do not talk to anybody, don't do any outside research, right? Okay, thank you. 15 minutes. I'm told this clock is right today, so we'll come back at 11:25, okay? All right, thank you.
Alright, so for this.
Okay, sure.
And this is where we came in, I guess. He disappeared again. Probably had to go to the bathroom again.
Have you at any time spoken with, can you please provide your full name?
Deborah Lynn Lloyd.
And Ms. Lloyd, you live in California
Yes.
and you work in California
Yes.
and you do not live or work in Virginia, correct?
Correct.
Have you at any time spoken with Mr. Depp or any of his counsel, either in preparation for this deposition or for any other matter after you no longer work with Mr. Depp? Do you recall who you spoke to?
I believe her name was Camille.
And you recall when you spoke to Camille approximately?
2 weeks ago.
And what did Camille and you discuss?
She had asked me if Johnny had ever thrown anything at me.
And what did you say?
No.
Were there any other, was that the total of your communications with Camille?
That was the only time that I remember speaking to her.
Did you speak about anything else other than whether, and when you say Johnny, I assume you mean Mr. Depp, correct?
Yes.
Did you have any other, did you discuss anything else other than whether
Hey, telephone.
They had asked if I would be willing to go to Virginia to the trial.
And are you?
I'm sorry, she looks like she's in mourning. I'm telling you, denying me.
Did you, at any time, did you speak, and did you have any other, do you recall
I
anything
hate
else?
the
you
fact that
and
she looks like
Camille
she's
spoke
in
about?
mourning, trying to get
No.
sympathy for herself.
Do you know how long the conversation was?
Approximately
It just
15
makes
minutes.
me sick.
Was it over the phone?
Yes.
Do you recall at any other time having any other communications with any other counsel for Mr.
Red
Depp?
colors.
No, there was somebody else on that call, I believe, from his side, but I don't know who it was.
Do you recall who the man or woman?
A man.
Do you ever speak to Adam Walton?
I know an Adam reached out to me a long time ago. I don't remember a last name.
You're a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner.
Yes.
Can you briefly explain what that is?
I'm a nurse practitioner that specializes in psychiatry.
So that's the type of person I'd probably be going to see if I ever needed one.
I got my master's from Maryville University.
Is that in California?
It's in Illinois.
And
In Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri. Sorry.
no problem. And I understand
Think of
you're
that.
also a certified addiction nurse.
Yes.
And can you briefly explain what that is?
I had to get a certification in addiction nursing.
What is addiction nursing?
And nursing that specializes in taking care of patients with chemical dependency issues.
Chemical dependency, that's drugs and alcohol.
Yes.
How long have you worked in those fields? Addiction nursing and mental health nurse.
Since 2004.
Can these people get the dates right? Now it's saying March 8th. At least they got the year right.
It was, yes.
What are concierge addiction services?
We would.
First it was February something 2021. Now it's March 8th, 2022. Seriously? Someone put the dates right on this thing.
Provide 24/7 nursing care.
Yes.
And you'd also be a patient's travel companion for nursing care.
Yes.
And you own your own company?
Yes.
What was the company's name?
Turning Point.
Do you still own Turning Point?
Yes.
What does Turning Point do?
Provides services. It's actually no longer, I still own it, but I don't work with it anymore. It provides services to either nursing or sober companion services to patients.
And when did you start Turning Point?
I don't recall the exact year.
Does anyone else own it?
No.
How many people work at Turning Point?
I'm the only employee.
And what do you have, contract nurses who work for you?
I did, yes.
And what does Turning Point do now? Anything?
Sit dormant.
Okay. And when did it start to sit down?
About 2 years ago.
Is there any particular reason why?
That's when I became a nurse practitioner and changed my career path.
And where do you
All
work
the
now?
people around you.
I work for Headlands Addiction Treatment Services,
What do you do there?
nurse practitioner.
What is there a difference between a nurse practitioner and a nurse?
Nurse practitioner, I can diagnose and prescribe medications underneath a doctor's supervision.
So when you were working at Turning Point, or when you were working at Turning Point, were you a nurse practitioner?
No.
What was your title then?
Registered nurse.
And you performed work for Mr. Depp, correct?
Yes.
Was that with Turning Point?
Turning Point was contracted through Dr. Kipper.
Can you explain how that arose, how you began to work for Mr. Depp through Dr. Kipper?
Dr. Kipper was his doctor and he needed
Flip with
nursing
these.
services, so Dr. Kipper reached out to me.
And it's Dr. David Kipper, correct?
Correct.
Had you worked with Dr. Kipper before working with Mr. Depp?
Yes.
Do you know when you started working for Mr. Depp?
Approximately, I think it was 2015 or 16.
Okay. And we can look at some documents and that may help. Do you know how many patients you would work with Dr. Kipper before working with Mr. Depp?
That would be a guesstimate.
Do you have any approximation?
20.
And when Dr. Kipper reached out to you about Mr. Depp, did he reach out to you by phone or by written communication?
By phone.
Do you recall what Dr. Kipper told you he was looking for in regards to Mr. Depp's care?
Detox.
And detox from what?
Originally, I don't think I knew any of the specifics.
What did you come to understand Mr. Depp was looking to detox from?
Opioids.
Any other medication? Or any other drugs that Mr. Depp was looking at detox from?
Not that I recall.
Do you know if Mr. Depp ever took cocaine?
No. I never witnessed him use any cocaine.
So, did Dr. Kipper contract with your company for care for Mr. Depp?
I don't
Never
recall
seen him use
the
cocaine.
specifics of how we were brought on.
In your face, Amber.
Um,
Saying he used
well,
cocaine.
okay. How were you paid?
Through Dr. Kipper.
Did you have to submit your time to Dr. Kipper?
Yes.
For Depp services? Did Mr. Depp ever pay you directly?
No.
Did you ever get any gifts from Mr. Depp?
Yes.
Okay. What gifts did you receive from Mr. Depp?
I remember getting a jewelry box and a I forget what it's called, like a notepad, a fancy notepad, I guess.
It was, do you recall why Mr. Depp gave you the jewelry box? Can you answer that?
I don't know why. I believe it was for a thank you.
And the same, you believe it was a thank you for the fancy notepad that you received?
It was at the same time.
Did you receive anything else ever from Mr. Depp?
Nothing else that I recall.
Do you still do work for Dr. Dipper?
I have not recently.
Do you recall when you last worked with Dr. Dipper?
Not exactly.
Do you remember the year you stopped working with Dr. Dipper?
No.
Do you recall the last time you spoke to Dr. Dipper?
This week, I think
What did you talk to Dr. Dipper about this week?
he's my personal doctor.
So, did you speak to Dr. Kipper at all about this case?
No.
Have you ever spoken to Dr. Kipper about your deposition?
No.
Have you ever spoken to Dr. Kipper about his deposition?
Yes.
And you know who Erin Gorham is, correct?
Yes.
And who is she?
She's a nurse that worked with us.
And Ms. Gorham worked for Turning Point, is that right?
Yes.
And she, and did you hire Ms. Gorham?
Yes.
Was Ms. Gorham a salaried employee of Turning Point?
No.
So Ms. Gorham was a contract employee for Turning Point, correct?
Correct.
So how, in kind of general sense, how did that work with Ms. Gorham and Turning Point?
Objection, bidding.
If you needed her for a particular case, you hire her for that case?
Yes.
And you're saying, your testimony is that you had hired Ms. Gorham previously for other patients, is that right? Before Mr. Depp and Ms. Hurd?
Yes.
And do you recall how Ms. Gorham came to work for Mr. Depp and Ms. Hurd?
And do you recall how Ms. Gorham came to work for Mr. Depp and Ms. Hurd?
Yes.
How did that happen? What happened?
I was taking care of Johnny, and Amber, it was decided that Amber needed some support, so I brought her in for Amber.
So, were you Mr. Depp's primary nurse?
Yes.
And was Ms. Gorham Amber's primary nurse?
Yes.
And would you ever share responsibilities where Ms. Gorham would perform nursing care for Mr. Depp and you would perform nursing care for Amber?
I know Erin covered for me a few times. I do not believe I ever cared for Amber.
And you said that a decision was made that Amber needed nursing care?
Yes.
Who made that decision?
I don't recall.
Can we put up attachment 2 and we'll call this Lloyd Exhibit?
It's in my. Exhibit 1.
Ms. Lloyd, I'm showing you what's been marked as Lloyd Exhibit 1. You'll see it's many pages, and we're going to go through some of these during the day. But just looking at it, do you recognize what this is?
Yes.
And what is Lloyd Exhibit 1?
My nursing notes.
And so these are notes that you created,
Yes.
and these are notes you created for your care of Mr. Depp, is that right?
Correct.
And if at a break, if you want to go over and see the whole thing, I'm happy to let you do that. Just to save time rather than having you read 123 pages. But did you create these notes in the ordinary course of business?
Can you clarify what that means?
You created these notes as part of your job of being a nurse, correct?
Yes.
Did Dr. Kipper ask you to keep these notes?
Just keep notes of nurses, I don't recall.
So this is your normal practice, keeping these notes. It's not particular to Mr. Depp, correct?
Correct.
Did you receive any training into how to keep these notes?
Nursing school.
And the notes are typed, right?
Yes.
Did you bring a laptop with you when you were working with Mr. Depp?
Yes.
Well, let's just go to the first one. It says June 12th, 2014, 2300. You see that?
Yes.
And 2300, that's military time, correct?
Yes.
So that's 11 p.m. at night.
Yes.
And it says RN and MD met with patient to discuss plan and medication regime. You see that?
Yes.
The RN is you, correct?
Correct.
And the MD is Dr. Kipper?
Correct.
And the patient is Mr. Depp, right?
Correct.
So where it says 6/12/14 at 2300, is that when you met with Mr. Depp, or is that when you wrote up the note?
That's when I wrote up the note.
Okay. So you may have met with Mr. Depp at some other time before this?
Sometime during that day.
Okay. So the time you have here is when you wrote the note?
Correct.
Okay. And then you typically type the notes as opposed to writing notes and handwriting and then typing notes?
Correct.
Okay. Did anyone review the notes?
Notes were sent to Dr. Kipper.
How often would you send the notes to Dr. Kipper?
I don't recall.
And was there a system where he could see the notes, or did you email him Dr. Kipper's notes?
Email.
So, is it your understanding, based on these notes, that the first time you met Mr. Depp was on June 12th, 2014?
Yes.
And if we scroll down to the 6/13/14, this says you met with patient in his apartment, correct?
Correct.
So the next day you met with Mr. Depp at his apartment, is that right?
According to my notes, I don't recall.
Okay. And in the second line, you write, he stated that he initially started taking opiates after some dental work and became dependent on them. Is that something that Mr. Depp told you?
According to my notes.
Would there be a reason you would write that if Mr. Depp did not tell you that?
No.
And then you write, patient is fearful of coming off of opiates, but knows it's what he needs to do. So again, that's something, according to your notes, that Mr. Depp told you?
According to my notes, yes.
And then it says, patient also expressed some emotional trauma which causes him depression and anxiety. Again, according to your notes, that's what Mr. Depp told you?
According to my notes, yes.
Do you recall at all what the emotional trauma was that was causing Mr. Depp depression and anxiety?
I do not recall.
Let me ask this again. Do you recall what the plan was for Mr. Depp's detox as of the end of June 2014?
Plan in what regards?
Where was Mr. Depp's detox going to take place?
I don't remember when it was determined, but I remember that it was after filming, we would go to the island.
And that's the island Mr. Depp owns.
Yes,
And you went to the island, correct?
correct.
Who else was at the island in this time when Mr. Depp was doing the detox?
I know I was there. I cannot remember if Amber was there the entire time, and some of Johnny's staff and Dr. Kipper came at some point.
How did you get to Mr. Depp's island?
So,
And will you take a boat to his island?
yes,
And if we go to the same document, Kipper 69, which I believe is page 17. You see where it says
God damn, it gets a
8:14,
lot of redacted.
yes,
and it says arrived on island today.
yes.
Does that mean that you arrived on the island on August 8th, 2014?
According to my notes.
Okay. And on August 9th, 2014, it says patient expressed fears of never feeling normal without his drugs. You wrote that?
Yes,
And is that something that Mr. Depp told you?
according to my notes, yes.
And if we go 2 pages, Kipper 71. Oh, yeah, there we go. You see where it says at the top, MD's flight has been canceled.
Yes,
Arrangements are being made for him to arrive on the island 8/12/14.
yes,
So according to your notes, Dr. Kipper, after the flight was canceled, was set to arrive on the island on August 12th, 2014.
according to my notes.
Ms. Lloyd, I'm showing you the markers. Exhibit 2, which is ALH 16110 through 113. Do you remember texting with Amber at all while you were on the island with Mr. Depp?
That is some of how we communicated, yes.
And does this refresh your recollection that Amber was at least at some point on the island with Mr. Depp during the detox?
Yes,
The gray part of the text is your text, correct?
yes,
And the blue is Amber.
yes,
And is in the gray part of the text where it shows a phone number there, is that your cell phone number?
yes.
Ms. Lloyd, I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 3, text message chain between you and Amber Heard on August 16th, 2014. And again, in the gray box where it shows a phone number, that's your phone number, correct?
Correct.
And this is what I'm showing what's been marked as Lloyd Exhibit 4, text message chain between you and Amber on August 18th, 2014. Do you see that?
Yes,
Do you recall when on the island, Amber would be telling you how Mr. Depp was doing?
according to these texts that was happening, yes.
Do you recall how long you were on the island?
I do not.
In a day, do you recall how long you would see Mr. Depp?
It varied.
Would there be reasons why it varied as to how long you'd see Mr. Depp in a day?
I don't recall how it was determined.
How far away were you from where Mr. Depp was staying?
5 to 10 minutes.
By foot or by some other
by a John Deere tractor.
And what type of place were you staying at?
It was a yurt.
And you were staying with anyone?
I was by myself some of the time, and then Dr. Kipper was also in the yurt some of the time.
And did the yurt have separate rooms?
Yes.
And would you typically eat with Mr. Depp?
Very.
And what was when you were on the island, what was your role in terms of Mr. Depp's detox?
Medication management.
And what do you mean by medication management?
To administer medications.
And was Dr. Kipper the person who was prescribing the medications?
Yes.
Did, as part of the medication management, did Mr. Depp get a bag of meds? You can answer, please.
Did I give Mr. Depp a bag of medication?
Either you or Dr. Kipper?
Not that I recall.
Let's stay on this last page for a second of going forward. The picture of looks like a pillbox, right?
Correct.
Would you have provided either Mr. Depp or Ms. Heard Mr. Depp's medications in a box like this?
Yes.
Okay, well, why don't we actually just take a break right for this moment? We've been about take a, I don't know, 5-minute break. Is there any reason to believe where you wrote RN received text from fiance that that's not a text you received from Amber Heard?
No.
Lloyd Exhibit 5 is a chart of text messages we received from in a production for Mr. Depp. It is Depp 7819. You see the second entry, entry 131.
Yes.
And where in the third row, there's your name, and above that name is the phone number. Is that your phone number?
Yes.
And you would sometimes text.
Correct.
You see it says your body in that row 131. I will come by 80 within an hour to drop meds off just in case. How are you feeling? Your head back on straight. Do you see that?
I see that.
This was a text you wrote to Mr. Depp.
According to this.
Do you recall around August 26, 2014, what you meant by your head back on straight?
I don't recall.
And then Mr. Depp responded to you. You see in the next row. Pretty much, I don't have the ability to take anything more on my back right now. I'm fucking strong. If my arm is dangerous, I would cut the fucker off. I'm threatened by the love I feel. I need to stop. Simple math. Do you recall receiving that text from Mr. Depp?
I don't recall. No, I don't recall receiving that.
Do you have any reason to believe you did not receive this text from Mr. Depp?
No.
We go back to Exhibit 1. And if you can go to Kipper 101, and you see where it says 0125 under September 22nd, 2014.
Yes.
And you wrote, RN received text from patient stating that he's been in an argument with fiance, and she, quote, had a nasty freak out, end quote, and he would like RN to come give him some, quote, some fucking knockout yum. RN instructed patient to take PRN, Neurontin, 300 milligrams, PRN, and Seroquel, 50 milligrams, and then RN was on her way home. You wrote that?
Yes.
Do you recall anything about what the nasty freak out that Mr. Depp was referring to about Amber?
I do not recall.
And then you see the note for 3:30, September 22nd, 2014.
Yes.
And again, that's 3:30 in the morning, right?
Correct.
And you wrote, upon arriving at the home, patient was sitting in kitchen with scraped and bloody knuckles on right hand. Patient stated he punched whiteboard in kitchen after fight. Patient stated he'd been texting his friend explaining why he didn't show up to play music, and fiance got upset that he was not giving her enough support. The fight escalated from there. You wrote that note.
According to this, yes.
Do you recall going to Mr. Depp's home and seeing him with scraped and bloody knuckles on his right hand?
I do not recall.
Did you ever recall any incident where Mr. Depp had claimed he punched a whiteboard in the kitchen?
I do not.
Do you have any reason to believe where you wrote that you wrote, upon arriving at the home, patient was sitting in kitchen with scraped and bloody knuckles on right hand? Would you have written that based on your observation of Mr. Depp?
Yes.
On paper 111, there's a highlighted note at 19:30 or October 14th. Do you see that?
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you wrote, the patient finished filming and was extremely agitated leaving the set. Patient kicked in the door of his trailer and refused to speak to director. Patient was verbally aggressive to another person on the set. So for no apparent reason, per MD, patient was to take Xanax 2 milligrams to reduce his agitation at this time. You wrote that?
According to these notes, yes.
And were these notes based on your observation of Mr. Depp?
I don't recall.
Would you go to did you ever attend filming where Mr. Depp was filming?
Yes.
Where you wrote, patient kicked in the door of his trailer and refused to speak to director, that's based on your observation of Mr. Depp?
I don't recall.
And where you wrote, patient was verbally aggressive to another person on the set, so no apparent reason. Do you recall what that's based on?
I do not.
Would it have been based on anything other than your observation of Mr. Depp?
I don't recall.
If you had been told that Mr. Depp was verbally aggressive, would you have written that in your note?
I don't recall.
And the note above it for 1630, you see that?
Yes.
You wrote RN and MD arrived on set to assess patient. So that's you and Dr. Kipper, correct?
Correct.
And you wrote patient appeared agitated and was short towards RN. You wrote that?
According to this, yes.
And where you wrote patient appeared agitated and was short towards RN, meaning Mr. Depp was short towards you, correct?
I don't remember.
That's what the note means, right? Is there a
That
reason for
was, yes.
And this note would have been based on your observation of Mr. Depp at the time, correct?
I don't remember.
And then you see under October 15th, there's another highlighted entry, correct?
Yeah.
And you wrote patient awake and states he slept from 2200 to 4:30. You see that?
Yes.
Patient continues to be agitated about work and is verbalizing having desire to escape with drugs. You wrote that?
It's in my notes.
And that would mean that you would, correct?
Correct.
And you have written that note based off Mr. Depp telling you you had a desire to escape with drugs, correct? I'm sorry, did you answer?
Yes, I said I don't remember.
And this is Exhibit 8.
Ah,
The text between you and Mr. Depp. Feel free to
Okay.
Mr. Depp wrote, I'm all right, confused as fuck. She said nothing of last night, most certainly not one thing of the rap party's existence. All the proof that I predicted last night. How I look at her when she gets back, professing her undying love. All a fucking lie. I for sure, unfortunately, wouldn't mind some company, but I've inundated you with too much already. Love me. That's a text you received from Mr. Depp.
I don't recall.
Exhibit 9.
And this is more text between you and Mr. Depp. You can take a look. On November 11th, 2014, Mr. Depp wrote all day, haven't read her text yet. I'm feeling so fucked. Why was she at the goddamn rap party until 5 a.m.? Did Aaron say anything? The lies are so clear now. They're making me nuts, wondering what was so interesting to keep her there that goddamn long. Please ask Aaron. I must have truth. I need it. It's not the easiest thing to do. At this point, though it's been a shitty and painful experience, I cannot help but hear her voice begging and crying. She wants to change and is going to change, etc. Help. I don't know what's real and what's paranoid jealousy. You received that text from Mr. Depp?
I don't recall.
And you don't recall, did you recall ever Mr. Depp not feeling trust for Amber?
I don't recall.
While you were working with Mr. Depp, did he smoke marijuana?
I don't recall.
Do you recall if he took any, if not smoked marijuana, ingested marijuana in any sort of way?
I don't recall.
Exhibit 10.
Can you think of another instance where there was a patient without giving the patient's name or information, where they were allowed to continue to take marijuana while detoxing other drugs?
I don't recall.
Exhibit 11 is Lloyd 235. Do you recall producing documents in this matter?
Yes.
Did you call me?
no,
You
What did you
produced
call me?
text
no.
messages with Mr. Depp and with Ms. Heard.
Yes.
Why would I call you?
I don't know. Maybe it
You
was
received
you.
a text message between you and Amber starting on December 26, 2014. You see that?
Yes.
And you understand that you're in the text from you are the blue, correct?
Okay.
You wrote, sorry to bother you with JD up. He has an important appointment at 2 p.m. and he isn't responding to me. But you guys had a beautiful Christmas. And Amber wrote, hey there, yes he is. He's opening presents with Lily Rose. So what appointment is he being picked up? Was Lily Rose?
Johnny's daughter.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp's?
I don't recall.
Does that mean that you never saw him stoned, or you just don't recall one way or the other?
I don't recall one way or another.
Do you know who the wit is?
And her sister.
Do you recall any time where Mr. Depp seemed confused about something that had occurred?
I don't.
Did you ever recall Mr. Depp wondering if he and Amber had a fight or if he was doing it? Do you recall Mr. Depp ever not taking the medications he was prescribed?
Yes.
Did you recall Mr. Depp sometimes potentially doubling the medications that he was prescribed?
I recall thinking that at times.
Did you believe that Mr. Depp wanted to detox off of drugs? What was your answer?
Yes.
And how did Mr. Depp show you that?
It was on his own free will that he hired us to be with him.
And then, did Mr. Depp have any relapses with drugs when you were working with him?
I don't recall.
You recall Mr. Depp when working with him ever take cocaine? Not that you necessarily saw it, but that you understood that he took cocaine.
I never saw Mr. Depp use cocaine.
Did you have any understanding that Mr. Depp took cocaine, whether you saw it or not?
I don't recall.
Did you administer drug tests to Mr. Depp?
In the beginning,
Did you see the results of the drug tests?
yes.
Did you see Mr. Depp being positive for taking cocaine?
I don't recall.
Do you recall accompanying Mr. Depp to Australia?
Yes.
And you recall accompanying Mr. Depp to Australia in around March of 2015?
I don't remember dates.
Do you recall accompanying Mr. Depp to Australia when he was filming Pirates of the Caribbean 5?
I do.
Where were you staying in Australia in relation to Mr. Depp?
Distance-wise,
Yeah, how far away were you from him?
about 30 minutes.
Where was Mr. Depp staying?
In a rental house,
And where were you staying?
in an apartment.
And what city were you in?
I don't recall the name.
And was Dr. Kipper there with you?
He came and went.
Did you fly to Australia with Mr. Depp?
Sometimes I did, and other times I flew on a commercial.
Do you recall talking to Dr. Gladstone about Mr. Depp in Australia?
I did not.
Do you recall Mr. Depp not doing very well while he was in Australia? It was March 1st, 2015.
I don't recall anything around that time.
Do you have an understanding as to what Mr. Depp was doing with Marilyn Manson?
I do not.
Did you ever tell Dr. Kipper that Mr. Depp was doing what he wants with Marilyn Manson?
I don't recall.
Do you recall Marilyn Manson being in Australia with Mr. Depp?
I do not.
It says Debbie is worried and somewhat exhausted. Do you recall being exhausted while in Australia and working with Mr. Depp?
I do not.
Do you have any reason to believe that what Dr. Kipper wrote is not true?
I do not.
We can take this down. And go back to Exhibit 1. And if we could go to Kipper 157. You see 3715?
I do.
Before I ask, do you recall how long you were in Australia with Mr. Depp?
No, however long the filming of Pirates was.
And at 3715 and 1130, you wrote, MD received a text message from client that he'd been arguing with wife and that he had cut his finger. According to patient, his assistant and security were on their way to pick him up. You wrote that?
According to my notes, yes.
I have any reason to believe you didn't write that note?
No.
Do you recall Dr. Kipper receiving a text message from Mr. Depp about Mr. Depp cutting his finger?
I don't. I'm just what this note says.
Do you recall going to Mr. Depp's house after learning that he had cut his finger? What do you recall about that?
That we went to the house and I don't even think I went in at first. Dr. Kipper went in and he had cut his finger and he took him to the emergency room. Or his finger had been cut.
You recall what the house looked like when you went in?
Yes,
What did the house look like?
it was a mess.
And can you describe how it was a mess?
I don't remember details, but I remember there was some writing on the wall, and I remember a smashed TV.
Do you remember what any of the writing said on the wall?
I do not.
Did you, and you said you recall the smashed TV.
Yes,
Do you recall, was Amber in the house?
I don't recall.
Do you recall seeing Amber that day?
I don't recall.
Do you recall what rooms you went through of the house, Mr. Depp's house?
I remember looking for his finger in the downstairs area.
And what was in the downstairs area? Or what rooms were in the downstairs area?
It was like a pool table entertainment room.
Did you look anywhere else around the house?
I don't recall.
What was the pool table entertainment room? Was that a mess?
I
Do you recall going into the kitchen of the house? Do you recall finding Mr. Depp's finger?
I did not.
Do you know who found Mr. Depp's finger?
Yes.
Who?
Ben.
Ben who?
I don't remember his last name.
Who was Ben in relation to Mr. Depp?
He was like our house manager.
Do you recall where the finger was found?
I do not.
Do you recall if Mr. Depp appeared to have dirt, grime, and paint on his hands?
Yes, he did. He did.
Do you recall seeing any glass anywhere?
I do not.
Do you recall smelling any alcohol?
I do not.
Who else was with you when you went to the hospital?
Malcolm and Stephen.
And who were Malcolm and Steve?
Stephen was his assistant, and Malcolm was one of his security guards.
Do you recall who was holding a piece of paper that he had?
And brought it to the ER.
What did Ben bring the finger in?
I don't recall.
Was it on ice, the finger?
I don't recall.
Did you ask Mr. Depp how he cut his finger?
I don't recall. I asked him.
Did you ask anyone how Mr. Depp cut his finger?
Oh,
I don't recall.
Do you have any understanding of how Mr. Depp cut his finger?
I heard different stories from people.
What were the different stories you heard?
I had heard that Amber threw a bottle of vodka at him. I had heard that he slammed it with a phone.
Do you recall who you heard that Amber had thrown a bottle at?
I do not.
Do you recall who you heard that he slammed it on with the phone?
I do not.
The stories that you had heard, did you hear it on that day of March 7th, March 8th, 2015, or later?
Did you ever talk with Mr. Depp about how he cut his finger?
I don't recall conversations.
Did you ever talk to Dr. Kipper about how Mr. Depp cut his finger?
I don't recall specific conversations.
Did Mr. Depp, how long was Mr. Depp in the hospital for?
I don't remember.
Did you have any concerns about the nurse supervision of Mr. Depp?
I know at times we would go days without me seeing him, but I don't know specifically what this is regarding.
Were there issues with the nurse supervision while in Australia?
I don't recall specifics.
You have no recollection of Dr. Kipper withdrawing his care of Mr. Depp for any period of time?
No. I know at times it was discussed when he would miss appointments, but I don't recall him ever actually going through with withdrawing his care.
Do you recall there being concerns about Mr. Depp taking substances that he shouldn't have been taking?
I don't recall what that was regarding.
Do you recall having major concerns about leaving for Australia with Mr. Depp? While that's going up, Ms. Lloyd, the day that Mr. Depp cut his finger, you don't recall seeing Amber one way or the other, is that right?
I do not.
Exhibit 16 is Lloyd 140 through 145. And Mr. Depp responded, "It's sad. I love you so much, little Debbie." And of course, Kipper too. He was right, though I did feel a bit of a sting when his letter, paper trail, arrived on the off chance that I croaked, which I also understand. Just never heard of anyone being fired by their position before. So I'm kind of proud of that little fact too. I love you, kid. Even attempting saying thank you to you would be like a monkey trying to fuck a football. It's just simply impossible. I wish things could have ended on a better note. All my love, Nurse Sharp, JD. You recall receiving this text from Mr. Depp.
I don't.
This text was on your phone, correct?
Correct.
Would Mr. Depp call you Nurse Sharp?
Yes.
Would Mr. Depp call you Little Debbie?
Yes.
And you don't recall Mr. Depp saying, "Never heard of anyone being fired by their position before."
I do not.
And then you respond on the next page. "I love you too and hope this is not the end. Be safe and be smart, my son." You sent that text to Mr. Depp.
According to this, yes.
And do you know what you meant by be safe and be smart?
I don't know.
And then Mr. Depp wrote, I've been off of for 3 days. The doc jumped the gun. Also, please thank him for the Motrin and the black baclofen. They work a treat for amputated fingers. God damn, I love that weird fucker no matter what. You received that text from Mr. Depp.
According to this,
Do you understand what is meant by I've been off of for 3 days?
I do have no idea.
Okay. You respond, so glad to hear you have been off. No matter what, I just want you to feel better.
Yeah, I don't know what we were referring to.
You go down to the next page. You write, I'd be more than happy to come back and help you with pain management and Tylenol injections. I know Kipper loves you and would always want to continue your care if you're no longer using. You wrote that to Mr. Depp.
According to this,
This text was on your phone, correct? Correct. What did you mean by Kipper loves you and would always want to continue your care if you're no longer using?
I don't know just what it says.
No longer using?
I don't know what that was regarding.
You don't know what no longer using is referring to?
I do not.
And And then Mr. Depp wrote, I don't know, I'm gonna stop it all except whatever I was on before and just deal with it. You received that text from Mr. Depp?
Yes.
You know what he was referring to, where he said, I'm gonna stop it all except whatever I was on before and just deal with it.
I do not know what that's regarding.
And then you wrote, I respect whatever decisions you make. I'll be sad to leave the crew as I love you all. I hope to always be in touch, even if you choose not to continue a working relationship. Miss you already. I will get in touch with Kevin and get my stuff out. Or 72 soon cuts. You wrote that message to Mr. Depp.
According to this.
And then Mr. Depp wrote, take care, darling. I cannot ever thank you enough for all you've done for me. On the junkie side and the broken heart side, you've been a lifesaver. Literally. We'll be seeing each other again, sweetheart. Love you so much, little Debbie. So does my entire crew. Yes. You received that text message from Mr. Depp.
According to this, yes. I'm gonna cry.
Miss Lloyd, I'm showing you what marked as exhibit. Lloyd 17.
Because you've been so sweet.
160, which is a text message between you and Johnny Depp from your phone. You see that?
Yes.
And on March 27th, 2015, you wrote, good morning, sleepyhead. Aaron came by to give you a shot. You were still sleeping. Take the pill form of Tutterall to hold you over. And
Is that our dog?
In my appointment in Beverly Hills. Then you wrote, have you taken pill? If not, hold off. And Aaron is on her way to give you injection. You see that?
Yes.
And you wrote that text message, correct? Those messages.
Yes.
And then on the next page, Mr. Depp wrote, the fucking pain is as bad as when it was cut off. Horrific. You received that message from Mr. Depp?
Yes.
And he's talking about his finger there, correct?
Yes.
And you received that text message from Amber, correct?
Correct.
And then you wrote, he's at the studio with Marcus and is supposed to call me when he gets back to the lofts. I will drive up there if you want me to. Always feel weird showing up unexpected if you want me to go. You wrote that text message to Amber?
Yeah, I don't recall, but according to this, yes.
Do you know who Marcus is? What was his relationship with Mr. Depp?
Friend.
And then you wrote, I know Steven is there. Let me just check in and see what I can find out. I'll get right back to you. Who is Steven?
He's assistant.
Do you ever remember checking if Mr. Depp had been taking cocaine?
I don't remember specifically asking any questions related to that.
Is there any reason to believe that you didn't do what you said in your text message?
No.
Do you recall what you were giving Mr. Depp Valium for?
I do not.
Lloyd, showing you again what's in marked as Exhibit 1, and I'm going to point you to Kipper 167, which is from April 13th, 2015. Okay, you see it? You see the entry for 1500?
Yes.
You wrote bandage changed and hand exercises done at an appointment with surgeon's office. Per RN at surgeon's office and occupational therapist, hand is healing well and finger has good range of motion. Exercises to be done 3 to 5 times per day. Patient is in good spirits and said he's not smoked marijuana in 3 days. States he feels majority of his issues with his wife have been from him using drugs and alcohol. Patient states he will no longer sleep, use, and wants to enjoy therapy. You wrote that?
Yes.
And these are part of your nurse's notes?
Yes.
And Mr. Depp told you that he felt the majority of his issues with his wife had been from him using drugs and alcohol.
According to the note, yes.
And Mr. Depp wrote he will no longer sleep, use, and wants to enjoy clarity.
According to the document, yes.
what is being referred to as no longer safe use?
I only know what's stated in my notes.
Would it be anything other than drugs or alcohol?
I don't recall.
Was there anything that Mr. Depp was seeking other than drugs and alcohol that you were concerned about?
I don't recall.
If you go to 175 or 175 on this page, on this document, it's notes for June 28th, 2015.
Yeah.
It says at 1700, RN received initial results from brain MRI. No obvious abnormalities noted. Final report will be done tomorrow. Patient informed the results. Do you recall why Mr. Depp received the brain MRI?
He was having chronic headaches.
And then you see at 6:30 at 1300.
Yeah.
Good.
And that's highlighted.
Yeah.
You wrote RN arrived on set to visit patient. He was upset due to having an argument with his wife. The patient stated he had taken about 4 Xanax, 1 milligram over the past 24 hours to deal with the stress he was feeling. The patient was able to express his emotions appropriately. The patient stated that he had not slept the night before due to argument with his wife. That's a note you wrote?
Correct.
And that's based off of information provided to you by Mr. Depp.
I don't recall.
Or
According to my note, yes.
So Mr. Depp told you he'd taken about 4 Xanax, 1 milligram over the past 24 hours, correct?
Into my notes, yes.
I'm getting bored. God damn.
I don't recall. I don't recall. According to my notes, I don't recall.
Okay.
I do not recall. I don't.
No, thanks. Let's go. Beginning. 13, 12, 11, 5. God damn.
Welcome to Popcorn Planet. We are live.
When there's an injustice, whether it's against you or someone you love or someone you believe in, stand up. Don't sit down. Don't sit down on them because they need you.
We are covering Justice for Johnny. Today was brutal. I'm so glad because I got It's Kim and we got Christopher Melcher here so far to break down today's fascinating breakdown of things. I'm so glad you're here, Christopher, because I got questions. Guys, so here's what happened today. We had 2 doctors. We had Dr. Kipper finish. Dr. Kipper was the 24/7 concierge doctor who was following Johnny. And then we had the nurse who was working with Dr. Kipper do a 3 hours, Kim? 3 hours of video deposition that
we'll never get back.
Guys,
No, really.
guys, it was brutal. It was brutal. And I have something to play for you, which we'll get there in a second. But I guess this is, yeah.
I have not recently.
Do you recall when you last worked with Dr. Kipper?
Not exactly.
Do you remember the year you stopped working with Dr. Kipper?
No.
And you said that a decision was made that Amber needed nursing care?
Yes.
Who made that decision?
I don't recall. We just keep notes as nurses. I don't recall. I don't recall. According to my notes, I don't recall.
Okay.
I do not recall. I don't recall. No, I don't recall receiving that. I do not recall. I do not recall. I don't recall. I don't recall. I don't recall. I don't recall.
And Mr. Depp responded, "It's sad. I love you so much, little Debbie." And of course, Kipper too. He was right.
This is the
So I did
funniest.
feel a bit of a sting when his letter, paper trail, arrived.
Hold
I hope
on,
anyone
Matt,
was inspired by their
Matt
position.
Bond helped me edit this together
So
quickly.
I'm kind of proud of that little fact too. I love you, kid. Even attempting saying thank you to you would be like a monkey trying to fuck up a ball. It was simply impossible. I wish things could have ended on a better note. All my love, Nurse Sharp, JD. You recall receiving this text from Mr. Depp.
I don't.
How do you not recall receiving that? Christopher, all right. We got to start there because, yes, I was thank you, Matt, for that montage as I was watching. I was like, I need to put this. Bravo. But, yeah, perfect ending because how do you not recall that? So, Christopher, look, she did that for 3 hours. She did it for 3 hours. And I'm sorry to bore you guys, but that's what we have to live for. So, will you smash that like button and support us? My God. Today was brutal, and it was brutal because I didn't understand why they kept showing us this. And I was texting with Christopher before the show because I was like, do they have to show us the whole deposition? Is that a Virginia thing? Why couldn't they hello, Ben Shu, why didn't you hire me? I would have snipped the hell out of that to make that snazzy and whatever you wanted. Whatever you wanted to convey, I would have made it happen. Any editor worth $1 would have cut that down, Christopher, and made it easier to digest. Instead, every jury member was just. And then when she did have something of value to say, which Kim, I cut it together with all her notes. 7 minutes out of 3 hours is what we should have watched. Not a 3-hour deposition, but you looked it up. In Virginia, they have the opportunity to play clips. They did not have to play the whole deposition. Christopher, please enlighten me. What do you think Johnny's team was doing, letting us listen to this for so damn long?
Yeah, so we did go back and check the rules in Virginia. The rules for civil procedure. It's actually Rule 4:7A5 if everyone wants to look at it. But there's a rules just like there is in California, and I'm sure everywhere else, that if you are able to play recorded testimony like this is, that you don't have to play the whole thing. You can just play the parts that you believe the jury needs to hear, and the other side can ask for some additional bits to provide context to make it a full or fair statement. If the counsel can't agree on what parts to play, the court can get involved. So you were asking, why would an attorney play something like this? I mean, if you wanted to prove that the witness kept saying, I don't recall, of things that you clearly would recall. I mean, this will be in my mind forever with the monkey and the football. You just never forget that. It's funny, and it's also, I've never heard of this before. And especially if it's addressed to you.
Yeah, Kim, wouldn't you frame that on your wall?
Yeah.
I said that. I would frame it. I would put it on my wall if Johnny Depp sent me that, or I would get it cross-stitched into a pillow.
We still could.
Something.
Yeah.
This was their witness. So why would they want to show? Because then the little nuggets she did give us, by that logic, which makes sense, to show like an aggressive witness or something. But this is supposed to be their witness, right? This is his nurse.
Yeah, so the only, playing a whole bunch of video of somebody saying, I don't know, to things that you would definitely recall undermines credibility. And maybe they're going to tie that up later on, but I don't see it. And definitely you'd have to assess, if you're the attorney that's leading this trial, the effect that it has on the jury, because you're boring them to death. It's already horrible sitting there as a jury, but to force them, at least we can multitask. We can look at our phones and do stuff. The jury is force-fed this information 8 hours a day for 3 weeks. It is absolutely painful. And like I was saying last week, you got to put Johnny on the stand. I think it has to happen this week because the jury is now expecting to see it. And now when you kill him with this, they're going to start wondering, why am I listening to tape recorded testimony and not hearing Johnny step from that seat over to this seat and talk.
Well, and she said herself she wasn't going to do the deposition in person, so that we heard that part of it. So she had no time for it. Now, I have the clip. I think it's important we go through their testimony because she did actually reveal some interesting things that I think it's important we know. But I don't think the jury is going to remember any of it. Hell, Kim, I just edited it and I don't remember it because it was so taxing. I really got to say,
I don't recall it either.
yeah,
I don't recall it.
I think this was a huge L for Johnny's team today, and I hate to say it. But I think they completely dropped the ball. Unless there's something I don't know legally that Christopher and I are missing, or there was some agreement or something, right, that the teams had forced this sort of process, I can't for the life of me figure out why they didn't. There was a 1 minute moment, Christopher, where she's just reading a text quietly. And then the lawyer's like, oh, sorry, hold on. Okay, I think I found it. What the cut it? It's the easiest editing job in the world. An editing assistant could have done a better job. I don't know. And I was saying, lawyers, man, they overcharge. Johnny, I don't know if someone on his team is watching this stuff, but you better start telling them to stop doing this. You could hire an editor overnight. I'm doing this right after the trial. I'm getting this thing cut, Christopher. There's no excuse.
And they did edit the video, right?
Yeah, there's cuts.
There's cuts, so it's not as if they just played it from start to finish. So they obviously didn't have a good handle on it. I don't know who they hired to do this, but they should be looking elsewhere next time. They just wasted the jury's time, and the jury does not like its time being wasted.
The jury's time and their time, right? They only get so much time to bring in the witnesses and do what they got to do. And imagine if they got it out early. I think everyone will be pleased, right? Instead, they wasted everybody's time today, and I can't for the life of me figure out it. And I'm irritated. Hey, lawyer team, somebody, I'll oversee the team for you. I'll do it myself. Hit me up. My God, lawyers. Christopher, if you ever need it, you know who to call. But my God, it's not that hard. It is theatrics. It is presenting the evidence in a good way that's not lying, but at least getting it concise. And man, they whiffed it today. I was really, really disappointed. But let's start with Dr. Kipper. We're going to get to Sean Betts, the bodyguard. It came at the end. We're going to talk about it briefly. I'm probably going to cut my own video to really properly show you what he said so far tomorrow morning. But the cross is happening first thing tomorrow. So stay tuned for more of the Sean Betts footage. We'll touch upon it a bit. But I want to go back to these two doctors so we don't lose focus of them because I think it's important. Dr. Kipper came back. And here's sort of I'll pause and start as we go. But here's some of the more revealing things that me and the team found the most important to reveal.
The news reflects here that you met with Ms. Hurd at that time, correct?
Yes.
Did her tell you that she was concerned about Mr. Depp being violent with her at this conversation?
No.
If she had told you that, is that something you would have documented in these notes?
Yes.
Again, an edit.
Recall Ms. Hurd.
That was my edit. But important to mention, he does it throughout his whole testimony. Never saw any witness of damage to Hurd. Also made it very clear that as a doctor who's there 24/7, he would have noticed and we would have absolutely made notes of some incidents because that's their job to do, not to cover it up.
For any physical injuries while you were on the island in August 2014.
No, I don't.
If Ms. Hurd had sought treatment from you for injuries, is that something you would have documented?
Yes, I would have.
Is that something you would have remembered for telling me?
Yes. On that particular evening, that I can't remember. But I did see Ms. Hurd pretty much daily during my time on the island.
Now, this is an important timeline, Kim, everybody watching, because this is the 3-day torture, right? That Amber has said so much damage to herself has happened. I'm using words, guys, bear with me because we have to be careful. But, what inflicted upon her in this 3-day, torture, etc. But this was also a detox for Johnny that we're going to learn through the testimonies of both doctors that Amber may have sabotaged and was trying to sabotage the whole time.
So, did you see her at some point, perhaps, did you see her the next day?
Yes.
And did you observe any injuries to Ms. Hurd at that time?
No.
She didn't have any bruises that you observed?
No.
After you met with Mr. Depp that evening of August 17th,
Sorry, I did have to pause. I know a lot of ladies were telling me that I'm feeling. Johnny looked spiffy today. I love the hair pulled back. Nice job, sir.
And go back to his accommodations as before.
No, I think we resolved the issues where we were outside of his little his home.
So you didn't go and attend to him again in his home after that time?
No.
Alice, could you please pull up what's been marked as?
See, I forgot to edit. Even in my mad dash, I made a mistake. Here's some of the brilliant work that.
20 hours?
Now, most of the time you had known Mr. Depp or spent with Mr. Depp was while he was in detox.
Sorry, hold on.
Physical evidence that Mr. Depp had abused Ms. Heard.
Was there any physical evidence?
No. Same answer, never.
During the time that you treated Ms. Heard, did she ever seek treatment from you for injuries that appeared to be the result of domestic abuse?
No, she did not.
Did she ever seek treatment from you for any injuries that she told you were caused by Mr. Depp?
No, she did not.
And did Ms. Heard ever tell you that Mr. Depp abused her?
No, she did not.
You never witnessed any physical abuse by Mr. Depp against Ms. Heard during the time that you treated both of them?
No, never.
If Ms. Bourne observed that Ms. Heard had any physical injuries, is this something that would have been documented in her patient notes for Ms. Heard?
Yes, absolutely.
Was the tip of the finger found?
It was found.
So this is important all because that 3-day Australia incident is very important. Obviously, he might not have been there for all incidents, but to not, sure, he didn't see any struck, right, moments, but he would have saw the after effect because he's the doctor on site through this event. So to me, this is a huge win. Granted, it's lost in a lot of raw footage, but the bottom line of Dr. Kipper's testimony was there was no injuries inflicted aside from Johnny and his finger.
I believe this man was their chef.
Thank you for doing what you do. Justice for Johnny.
Thank you, NJ. That's going straight to the editor fund. So thank you guys for supporting. I'll come back to thank you all in a moment, but really, really grateful. Thank you.
Not have any observable bruises.
That's correct.
So again, what you missed there, no observed no injuries.
Heard had appeared to have been injured. Is this something that you would have documented?
Yes.
I love that question because Christopher, he was being very cagey, right? He's a famous doctor that represents a lot of clients. He's got to be very careful, and it felt very clear that the nurse was following his lead, and they have to be careful what they reveal based on their patients. So there was a lot of I don't recalls, I don't remembers, but it was a very good question of like, well, did she have any injuries? No. Is that something you would have documented had she had any? Of course you would have, right?
So Ms. Heard had any physical injuries, would those have been noted in this portion of the document?
Yes.
That document in hand also was another doctor who basically said she complained about hitting her head and thought she had a concussion, and turned out she didn't. But again, another doctor who saw it also saw nothing. A doctor that worked for Dr. Kipper.
Would those have been noted in this portion of the document?
Yes. Ms. Heard, for example, if somebody hurt Ms. Heard while she was under the direct care of Ms. Borum, and Ms. Borum documented that Ms. Heard had been injured, she certainly would have reported that to me.
So that was Dr. Kipper. He wasn't as long, but he was pretty long too. That was part 2 of it. But again, could have been more concise is my only complaint. But Christopher, those are some pretty good reveals and testimony from the doctor who was there through the alleged incidents, correct?
Well, yeah, they need to do that. And that's the part of telling this story is sometimes the negative, what didn't you see? Right. So a lot of times you think a trial testimony is what did you see? A lot of this is what didn't you see? And because we already got a taste of this from last week with the magic cream, I had injuries, but I put the magic cream on or the makeup on. And that's why Isaac Baruch allegedly couldn't see it. And, here now we got a medical doctor who knows Amber who's saying, hey, I wasn't told this. If I was told it, I would have remembered it, and I certainly would have documented it. And if the nurse or another medical professional was told of it, they would have documented and told me too. None of that happened. That's really good evidence. And why it couldn't just be cut down to what you just showed us, a little bit about qualifications and background, maybe wrap it up in a half hour. I don't know. I don't know why they're not really thinking about, to your point, their own time. To forget even, I mean, I'm just always respectful of other people's time. I don't want to waste their time, their lives, but they're on the clock also here by this judge.
They just let the clock run all day. I mean, Kim, you felt it, right? That was insanely frustrating.
Gosh. Yes, and it was like, at least for me taking notes, it was like I would go and then we'd stop because it was just a constant, like, I don't recall. I literally have like a pain in my shoulder right now because it was just stop, start, because it was just so much longer than it needed to be. And it could have been done so much better. It really could have. Just painful.
So you're also, before I forget, if you like my shirt, yes, they came in. No System Knows. My buddy Brian made this amazing design, and you can go catch it over on our store. All proceeds from these Johnny shirts will go to the Crisis Center here in Tampa Bay. So I just wanted a shirt. We also got the Johnny Depp is Innocent shirt up, which I think are really nice. We still got several weeks. If you order now, you should be able to get it before the trial. If you want to throw a party, whatever happens, this is a nice keepsake. And thanks to Brian, you can also check out all our other gear as a little plug to our store. I appreciate Brian going to do that last minute to get it up there because it looks great. Woo woo! Justice for Johnny! Multiple colors, you can pick it up. All right, now I want to go over to the nurse testimony. It's a little bit. We got 7. Basically, I whittled 3 minutes down, 3 hours down to about 7 minutes or so. And so I think there is some good takeaways here. But you got to remember that opening I played you with. I don't recall. She only recalled very randomly or when pressed into a corner. And so here's sort of the gist of what she did recall that she was able to reveal.
And I don't even think I went in at first. Dr. Kipper went in and he had cut his finger and we took him to the emergency room where his finger had been cut.
You recall what the house looked like when you went in?
Yes, it was a mess. I don't remember details, but I remember there was some writing on the wall and I remember a smashed TV.
Do you have any understanding as to how?
That's the first time I've heard someone confirm the smashed TV. There's been always allegations of him drawing in blood something on the wall. But again, she doesn't recall details, but she sort of alludes that maybe that was there. Now this document here, cut his finger.
I heard different stories from people.
As to what happened with the finger, she heard different stories. Again, please keep in mind, I edited this. This took a lot more pressing, a lot more pauses in between, but I tried to give you the concise version.
I had heard that Amber threw a bottle of vodka at him. I had heard that he slammed it with a phone.
Take care, darling. I cannot ever thank you enough for all you've done for me. On the junkie side and the broken heart side, you've been a lifesaver. Literally, we'll be seeing each other again, sweetheart. Love you so much, little Debbie. And so does my entire crew. X. You received that text message from Mr. Depp?
According to this, yes. I'm going to cry.
That was the first time we saw emotion through it, as sort of she was giving us nothing. And then she did reveal some emotion about the text, which she clearly remembers, but she keeps saying she does not recall. When you have that sort of conflicting emotion, Christopher, how does that play to the jury as a witness?
Yeah, it's very strange. And you figure as a medical professional, she must have testified something before. Maybe somebody gave her some advice about how to testify and she took it to the extreme. But it is there. You could see the conflict between her reaction, visible reaction, and then even stated reaction, about to cry on reading something. And then she says, well, yeah, apparently I did get it. So whose phone did he send it to? Why didn't she have the same reaction when she would have read it on her own phone when it was sent, as opposed to being shown now where she pretends like it's the first time? So I don't understand it. It definitely doesn't help her with her credibility.
Right. Again, which is to me why I'm frustrated with Johnny's team of why would you show it on your end? If you want to just try to do it on the other side, try to wreck the credibility, I guess. But a weird waste of time.
They've since expressed frustration with the detox process.
and was not liking how the phenobarb was making him feel. Initially, he stated he was done with the process and no longer wanted MD and RN services. After processing his feelings and realizing how far he had come, and that part of his wanting to give up was due to tensions between him and his fiancée. Patient, fiancé, RN, and MD came up with a plan for fiancé to take a few days for herself, and patient was willing to continue treatment, but was going to refuse phenobarbital from this point forward. Do you recall tensions between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard at this stage in his detox process?
Yes.
And what do you recall about that?
I recall Johnny feeling that she was trying to interfere.
So she clearly recalls things, right? And it was very interesting that this was the thing she finally recalled. I was like, oh, well, okay, wow. Could you have revealed a little bit more maybe earlier? But Amber, what she felt Amber was interfering.
In what way did he feel she was trying to interfere?
By reporting to us things that he didn't feel were true.
What?
So again, yeah, and so is a doctor allowed to share that? Because isn't that hearsay? We just had the bodyguard on. They were nailing him for saying, Johnny told me this, Johnny told me that. Is a doctor allowed to share what Johnny said in that way where it's not hearsay?
So if the statement is made for the purpose of diagnosis or to seek medical treatment, then we feel that those statements are reliable enough to be introduced, even though they're made outside of court. And the other exception is when it's being used against a party opponent. So any of these witnesses that Johnny calls, they can testify as to statements made by a party opponent, meaning Amber.
Got it.
So I'm not sure exactly what this is going under. This whole phenobarbital, prescription is concerning. I mean, it's hard that he's being treated for substance abuse or addiction, and then he's been given another drug to get off the drugs that he's taking illicitly. I understand that they do that, but that doesn't in any way address the underlying issue that would cause somebody to have a substance abuse problem. And then just suddenly stopping phenobarbital can apparently cause you to have anxiety, hallucinations, and stuff like that. So
I'll say it too. A lot of these doctors, I'm sure, want these clients to forever be in between, because then they get to be on the payroll longer. I mean, I'm not saying they did it, but you never know. But yeah, it's a messy situation they're all in, if we're being honest. No.
Well, that's it. I mean, like I say, I'm certainly no doctor and nobody to question these medical professionals, but it just seems counterintuitive to me to replace one drug with another, and then to
have them around the problem that's clearly making him go on drugs is probably not helpful either. If he's going to do a proper detox, he should have been like in a center without Amber around. No. I mean,
that's it. I mean, where are these boundaries? And it's hard when you're working with celebrities and high-profile people or high-powerful people, is that sometimes the boundaries get ignored. And ordinarily, I think this doctor probably would be saying, like, hey, you need to stop working. You need to go into a detox facility. You need to be locked down, basically. And all these other things in your life that are causing you stress, like your fiance or maybe even your job, need to stop so you can focus on getting well before you go back to those things potentially.
Right, and
Johnny, it's like, oh no, go work, see your fiance, don't take those drugs, take these drugs.
Oh, so sad. Well, I mean, Johnny's gonna want it too, to be fair. Maybe He wasn't fully ready. We don't know yet, but he was trying something, and it doesn't feel like this was really working.
While RN was visiting patient, fiance came in and tried to start argument with him. Patient was able to stay calm and talk his fiance down.
I do.
Do you recall the incident reflected in this note?
I do not.
Do you recall any instances where you witnessed Ms. Heard try to start a fight with Mr. Depp?
Yeah.
She couldn't not answer that one. Yes. She's like, yeah, that'd be too much of a lie to not say yes. I saw her.
How many instances do you remember?
I don't recall specific numbers.
Remember at least one?
Yes.
Do you remember more than one?
Yeah.
So I love this one, Christopher, because they backed her into a corner. She's now on record, says she remembers 2. So the person who can't recall suddenly is going to be pressed to recall 2 incidents.
More than
Yeah.
2? I don't recall specific numbers. What do you remember about that first instance that you can remember? I remember one night trying to leave the penthouse and Amber standing in the elevator and not letting us leave. Why wasn't she letting you leave? Jesus. She didn't want him to leave. Had they been fighting previous to that point?
Load.
I wasn't there previously. And what's the other instance you remember?
Now she's going to forget.
I can't remember specifics.
Convenient. So, I mean, doesn't that make her first incident almost go down the garbage?
I mean, clearly she remembers enough where she had to admit to it. I'm just wondering, like, what is she doing here? I mean, because, like, you know, hey, if we're doing a job for somebody, we're going to remember big details like that. We're not going to forget stuff like that. And even if she does this all the time with lots of patients, there's certain things that are going to stick out in your mind if you really care about your patient. And especially if somebody else is interfering. Yeah, so I don't really get it. I mean, okay, so far they've gotten out that Amber was, you know, being the dominant aggressor in the relationship, and okay, what else?
Well, let's find out.
You say Miss Heard would try to instigate him. What do you mean? I remember an argument or being in there when he was going from room to room trying to remove himself from a situation, and she would just follow him from room to room and not give him his space. Do you remember seeing that type of behavior on other occasions? Yes. I only recall what Johnny told me about the conversation. The idea of having to sign a prenup. But you recall Johnny telling you that Miss Heard didn't want to sign a prenup? Yes. Upon arrival back to apartment, patient discussed feelings of anger and sadness about his relationship. Patient was encouraged to stay away from wife as the relationship is toxic.
Now that's Dr. Kipper's written testimony admitting that stay away from Amber as the relationship is toxic.
Patient expressed verbal understanding and why they needed to separate. You see that?
That's the doctor giving an order. Johnny, your fiance is the problem. She's toxic. You need our prescription. Get a divorce. That's a drastic prescription. I don't understand how they don't remember it. So it's very weird that they're clearly Team Johnny and they're trying to like put a little bit out, you know what I mean? But they won't just go the extra mile and just spill some of the beans. Do you think it's protected clients? I'll go to you, Chris. I'll ask you, Tim, but is it like protected clients maybe? Is it like the aura of we can't let our concierge 24/7 high clientele know that we're going to spill the beans if we're deposed?
That could very well be it, to protect themselves, so they're not just out there giving all these details. But gee, that would stand out. I would think any doctor or medical professional saying like, "Hey, your partner in this relationship is abusive, or you're in a toxic relationship, and we're recommending that you separate." For it to get to that level, to show up in this note, I can't imagine how they wouldn't have vivid memories of that happening.
Kim, was this surprising to you as well?
It was, but I think I don't think she's a very good liar. So I just you can tell she's being selective with what she's saying, and it's probably to save her own butt, or to protect her reputation, or to protect Dr. Kipper or whatever. I think it hurts her though, because we can all tell that she's not being completely honest. We can all tell that there's more to this than what the notes say. And it's disappointing to me. It was disappointing.
All right, now directing your attention to the last part of this note that says 2100. Says here, between shootings, patient was able to express his feeling to RN. He explained that his wife makes him feel that he could never do anything right, and that they cannot have a conversation without her blowing up.
Do you see that? And I think you testified you don't recall having this exchange with Mr. Depp.
Correct.
It goes on to say, patient was given positive reinforcement for expressing his feelings. Patient verbalized he knows it's best for them to take a break from each other when the fights start to escalate, but how she will follow him from room to room when he tries to get away. Do you see that?
Okay.
Have you ever personally observed Mr. Depp try to get away from Miss Heard and
She's already
her
admitted
then
this.
following? Yes. And it says here, saw them, she wiped me out of everything. Need Adderall in the PRNs. I don't like to be out of stuff on the just in case kind of deal. I can't believe she's got the balls to flat out steal my meds for her fucking debaucheries. Hard game. After all, she is the sister. Ex me.
It wasn't so much her.
So she refused to engage what that is, but there was a weird implication, Cam. I don't know if you got it too, that, I mean, pretty much implying that Johnny's saying the sister was stealing his meds. We already learned yesterday through Kipper's testimony that Amber was also given permission to administer some of those meds while in this detox, which to me is like, what? So again, some shady happening, but of course she doesn't recall, guys. So we don't know, but that's the allege.
Her treatment of me hearing that she didn't want me around from other members.
So she heard from other members that Amber didn't want her around is another thing she did reveal.
Who did you hear that from?
I don't recall specific. It was other staff, people that we worked with.
Okay.
So I did feel a bit of a sting when his letter, paper trail,
I did have
arrived
two
on
funnier
me.
ones, so here was
I
the
croak. Just never heard of anyone being fired by their physician before. So I'm kind of proud of that little fact too.
So he thought he was getting fired by his doctors, which is sad in its own right.
I love you, kid. Even attempting saying thank you to you would be like a monkey trying to fuck a football. It's just simply impossible. I wish things could have ended on a better note. All my love, Nurse Shark, JD. ... You recall receiving this text from Mr. Depp?
I don't.
Yeah, you fucking liar. And then we got one more.
And he wrote, "Hey, sweetheart, I'm so sorry about today. I thought you were Steven, whom I'm not particularly enthused about for his loss of loyalty and his loss of memory. He has tried everything to fuck me over as far as traveling with my wife. He also bursts into my fucking house like it's goddamn Grand Central Station. I'm truly sorry if I upset you. If you like, you can give me some morphine to see if my tongue and penis touch. All my love, Jay." Did you receive this text from Mr. Depp?
It appears so.
It appears. She forgot that one too. I don't know if I got an email, a text saying, "Give me some morphine to see if my tongue and penis touch." All my love. But yeah, she still doesn't recall that either. Who is the Stephen? Which do we know, Kim? Which Stephen she was referring to?
I think she's referring to the personal assistant, because isn't that the partner of Gina?
Help us, Chad. I'm sorry, there's so much in my head today.
I think that's what it is. So, like the witness who got kicked out, it's her husband.
Okay, I think so too. But all right, so there we go. That was the gist of what this nurse gave us today. That felt like there was something of value, but really 3 hours worth. What is your take, Christopher? Was that worth 3 hours of boring the jury and wasting their time?
No, there's no reason why you'd have to have all that other stuff in there. They should have edited it down. The judge should also, be taking a role in this here and managing it. But again, she's got everybody on a time clock. So if that's how they wanted to use their time, hey, that's their decision, but it makes no sense.
Now, I'm going to go more in detail tomorrow about Sean Betts. I want to give you a quick recap of what we saw, though, so far. I haven't had time to clip it. But this Sean Betts is his security guard. And there were some fireworks in that Sean, let's be clear, I call out the trickery on both sides. And I think Sean was being a friend here. He was trying his damnedest to get in as much hearsay as he could throughout. And there was one moment particularly where there were some serious firework exchanges. In fact, let me find it because I want to get your reaction to it. 6:44 is what I'm going to go find. But this moment where he keeps basically referring, when asked questions, will say what Johnny told him. And you could tell, Kim, you were watching, maybe you have this feeling too, the judge was getting pretty upset with him. Is the vibe I was getting. At one point, I think she even said, "Sir, you must have testified before. Only speak to what you saw, not to what others told you," is what he kept doing. But this one moment in particular, to me, was the standout moment, if I can get the time code right, of Sean trying his damnedest to get in what he knew, but he had to be careful given that it wasn't, something he saw himself.
After observing several arguments between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, what happened next?
Sorry, I gotta go before it.
She went to throw a water bottle or a plastic cup down the stairs, and it bounced kind of in Johnny's direction, but I ended up getting him, and we, got out of there as soon as possible.
Did you ever see Ms. Heard throw anything other than a water bottle?
It was a water bottle or a coffee cup. It was something plastic.
Other than a water bottle or a plastic cup, did you ever see Ms. Heard throw anything else?
No, other than what he told me when she threw a broken bottle and sliced his finger. And
Sir, sustain the objection. The jury will strike that testimony. Please just answer the question asked. And when there's an objection, do not speak, okay? Thank you.
Now, do you think that was intentional, Christopher? Or do you think that was a mistake?
I don't know. Maybe he's nervous, but that kind of crap doesn't help. I mean, it's not just like blurting stuff out and all of a sudden we win. He's got to maintain credibility, and the jury probably is picking up on these rules and the violations of the rules by now, and it's saying like, hey, don't waste our time. Don't try and like blurt a bunch of crap out there so we can hear it and only to be stricken. So he's not doing himself or Johnny any favors by if he's doing it intentionally.
Yeah, I mean, aside from those moments, which I do feel like he was walking that line and crossing it a few other times. The real testimony is when he started showing the photos of Amber, what Amber did to Johnny. As those moments were happening, there was, they did put in evidence. We got to see some of the marks on Johnny, and he talked about, why'd you take these photos? He's like, we needed it as evidence in case Miss Heard made allegations. I was empathetic that we needed to keep it. Apparently Johnny didn't want to. He was the one who was sort of making him let me take these photos, sir, to protect you, because that's his job. He took them at 2 occasions, and we were basically shown one photo, and then we were shown a handful of photos on a second instance that showed some scratch marks and so on. I'll try and look for that time code in a second, but that was clearly the big moment. Aside from him being there and never seeing, also confirming, like the doctor said, never saw any violence towards Amber or the aftermath of what that would have, marks or bruises or anything like that. And he was around those instances pretty much right when they were happening. Never saw anything. Now, is that good testimony, or is that sort of like, well, he's the security guard, he's still Johnny's security guard, they're really tight? Do you think, Christopher, that will help, or they're going to think, well, this guy, I got to take him with a grain of salt?
Well, the photos are great, and it's consistent with when you have somebody who's a victim of domestic violence, they may not want to cooperate, they may not want to make a big deal about it, and especially when it's a man who's at the hands of a woman. Those are hard cases, and sometimes guys don't want to come forward and admit that. So it's great that the security guard, who maybe has a law enforcement background, he understands this stuff and getting the photographs even over Johnny's protest. So that's very good evidence to show that Johnny's not trying to make a case out of this. He didn't want to highlight this at all. He's again running from the problem. He's not the problem. So that's great evidence. And I think that the security guard, and hopefully they talk to him afterwards, is like, hey, don't put the knife in and start twisting it, because now it does lead to some claims that maybe he's so aligned with Johnny that he would say something false. So they need to preserve his credibility to say, look, he's just a professional. He's just telling what he saw. He's not adding any sauce to it.
Yeah, I mean, overall, and I'll come to you, Kim, too, to get your take, but I'll try and do a summary tomorrow. So if you haven't already, let me use this time to remind you, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for all alerts, smash the like button as well, and leave a comment down below to help the engagement to get these recaps out there. I appreciate all you guys watching and supporting for Justice for Johnny, but we want to obviously give you as much as we can. And I tried my best to get all this clip in there, but the Sean Betts bodyguard portion, we will see more of that tomorrow. But just a quick recap. He just like Isaac Baroche, he spoke very nicely of Amber at the beginning. He's like, yeah, she was very nice. I liked her a lot. And then through the journey they were telling, which I thought the Vasquez was doing a good job. She's like, he just starts saying like, I just, the friends were there, Amber's friends, and how did Johnny treat his friends? Well, he was very nice. Eventually, he let a few of them live there for free, drive his cars, and then eventually he's like, I just noticed they were taking advantage of him, and he just sort of put it out there. He then recalls that Amber was talking to her friends about a story. All men are idiots. You shouldn't trust that guy. And then catches herself in front. Sorry, Sean, not you. And he just observed changes in her. They went from a loving high school couple to arguing. The arguing progressed, and it got worse and worse. Always took place as Amber would start the argument with the things that he was putting out there. He also did a really good point about talking about Johnny's intoxication, how often he would drink, did his demeanor change, and he was like, no, he's like friendly, jovial, Jack Sparrow, like he won. He's the same when he's drinking or not. He even was like, I wish I could handle my liquor like Johnny does. Never felt like he was out of it. They asked the same question about Amber. He then tried to explain and even said, Christopher, based on my trained law enforcement, I can tell. And then that's when Rottenborn was like, no, you're not an expert. You're not allowed to say things like that. He talked about the fights that he saw. And they talked about the finger, or the big fight that they had in the penthouse, rather. And that's when he also mentioned overhearing Amber say, he's a fat ass, F you, Johnny, and you too, Sean, when she went through that water ball at him. And that's when he got Jerry Judge, who's no longer with us. That was Johnny's head of security. He died of cancer last year or 2 years ago. They were both there. Jerry pulled him out and said, we got to get out of here. And then the big takeaway, did you ever see any injuries of Miss Heard? No. Did you see any, injuries on Mr. Depp? She said, yes, his finger. He also talked about the swelling on the face. We're like, well, how'd you know? Because I took a photo. And then this photo, because I took the photo. It was really how he told that story. I thought was really strong. They showed the photos as we just saw, and then when the big fight happened before the divorce, or before she filed, Jerry Judge heard screaming. Sean and Jerry heard screaming and obscenities when they got up there. They ran around the bend. When Amber saw us, she had a look of surprise, and she said, "This is the last time you do this to me." Johnny said, "What the hell are you talking about?" Judge grabbed him and said, "We're out of here." We grabbed some computer bags and they left. Didn't observe any injuries on Miss Heard. She wasn't holding her face or doing anything like she was in hurt. And that was sort of the big takeaway at the end. They never saw him be violent to anyone. Now, cross is happening tomorrow. I imagine we'll get some interesting cross between them. So that's why I may just wait to see how this all nets out with Sean, the bodyguard. So we'll cover that for you too soon. So stay tuned. But before I clip this, thoughts from you, Christopher, on this, and I'm going to come to you, Kim, on things we met. Does that seem like a good? I guess yes. The photos are ultimately worth all of it.
Yeah. This is good background, again, leading up to when Johnny's going to testify, because we have a professional here that's
blah 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 blah. Got main things of it. God damn, it's lagging. Yes, I know you're bored. I wonder who the second person is. So am I.